Justin A.W. Blair here, writer and painter and occasional YouTuber here with another Deep Space Nine novel review. And I have good news. I have good news for you, good news for me, good news for the wider Deep Space Nine community. Number 10, Valhalla, written by Nathan Archer. This is actually good. This is a good book. This is the best of the entire series so far, beating out all 9 previous entries in the numbered Deep Space Nine series. I'm going to tell you why. I'm not going to spoil this for you in case you haven't read it yet. This I can actually recommend wholeheartedly. Even if this wasn't a novel attached to a series, even if this was just a standalone science fiction novel, this would be worth reading. This is actually well done. Um, Look, is it a masterpiece of science fiction? Perhaps not, but it's actually very, very good for Deep Space Nine. It does a lot of things right on a kind of meta level we'll get into, and does a lot of things right on just prose writing, pace, characterization. So much this does right. Valhalla by Nathan Archer, my pick so far for the best Deep Space Nine novel out there. Now, I know there are some other ones that are well favored by the fan community that come up a little bit later. I've looked into it because this is the last one I actually have. I haven't. I think I have a few more later in the series, but I haven't bought 11 and so on and so forth. And I really was planning probably not to, given how bad so many of these have been. But this has kept me in the game. I don't know. I may be making another order. So first, let's get this off right off the bat. I don't like long commercials in the middle of a YouTube video, so I'll get to the point quick. My own novel, written by me, Justin A.W. Blair, entitled The Haunt on the Island of Esmer, is out, available on Amazon. You can buy it in ebook or paperback format. Take a moment, check it out. Right off the space bat, let's just mention this. A space mosquito bit me on the forehead. Infirmary. Space mosquitoes have got my forehead. First thing this book does right is very short chapters. I think the last book I mentioned went the reverse on this and only had 12 chapters for the entire book. This has, I think, 30 plus chapters, 31, 32, something like that, and a small epilogue. That is good for these types of books. The pace needs to move quickly. These books are most enjoyable when the pace is quick, and one way to do that is to write short chapters. I appreciate that. I really like that. There are a few things. There are really just a couple of things that I think were a little bit wrong on this. Um, the cover art. I'll take a picture and put this edited in later. The cover art for Major Kira was extraordinarily disturbing. She has a man's face. She has a Major Kira man's face for some reason. Her brow is mighty and furrowed, and it's very disturbing. That is not good. And I will say, oddly enough, Kira is not portrayed exactly on target here. She seems really hardcore. She's overwrought. She's a little bit. They took that aspect of her personality where she's very anti-Cardassian and a little bit in your face to Cisco, a little bit quick to maybe action. They really took that up to 11 on this and didn't stop much. I thought the characterization of her was a little bit wrong. Bashir barely figures into this book at all. He is in it briefly. He boards an alien vessel and he does something extraordinarily stupid, which, to be fair, even Dr. Bashir, he's a man of intelligence. He would not do this. No one would do this. He just pushes a random button without telling anyone for no apparent reason, which causes a bit of an issue. I thought that was a little bit odd. Bashir, I don't know. Who wouldn't do that? One of the best things this does is actually has a fairly original concept. Now, there's another YouTube channel on here I watch at some point. I can't remember the name of it right now, but basically science fiction, this YouTuber, he's a bookseller, book enjoyer in England. He's actually very erudite and knows a lot. And he put it like this: science fiction at its best, what it does is it creates the novum, which I think is Latin for like the new thing. It gives you something new. And that this book does that. Now I'm not saying that some semblance of this plot hasn't been done before, but it was surprisingly original, especially for a Deep Space Nine novel, which, let's be frank, with these, if you've watched my other reviews, are really don't do well on the originality scale. A lot of them are just serial murderers loose on the station. It's really poor. But close your ears for a second because this will be a little bit of a spoiler. Okay, ears closed. Basically, what happens is you get a sentient spaceship that is derelict, and Deep Space Nine takes it in, salvages it, which sets up both a problem with the Cardassians and this other subplot of the Cardassian ships are trying to maybe get it also. There's a little bit of a convoluted and perhaps too complicated um, plot about the different ghouls. There's like four different ghouls, and Cisco is trying to manipulate the political situation on Cardassia with Kira, and that plays into this separate thing, the more important thing with the sentient ship arriving, but it doesn't quite exactly mesh, and I didn't really find that political intrigue aspect of it particularly interesting since, I've already seen the show. I know how that all turns out. Maybe at the time it would have been more interesting because you don't know how the show concludes or what's going to happen, but it still wasn't bad. But the main thing is this ship that comes along, and the alien species on board it doesn't exactly figure in because they are already dead. But it just really does it this mystery of exactly what is happening with the ship. At first they don't understand that it's sentient. The way that develops is just paced and done really well, and captures the interest of the reader. It captured my interest. I actually wanted to know. I didn't feel like I was, you know, just trying to get through the book. The book is leading me as opposed to me having to use my own willpower to get through the book because it's slow or boring or whatever. This book leads you. It pushes you through. You want to read it. In particular, the last line of chapter 17 is really, really good. I don't think I'm going to read that for you because, again, I actually endorse people reading this book if you're watching this and you're interested. In fact, I would absolutely say if you're just going to pick some random book out of the Deep Space Nine series, just skip the first 9 books and just read this. If you're just looking for a standalone novel of Deep Space Nine to enjoy, this would be the one I would recommend. The characterization of Cisco is not exactly right either. Now I'm looking at my notes, there are a few problems. The main problem is that Cisco is very involved with dealing with the political situation and trying to manipulate the political situation on Cardassia with Kira, and he kind of ignores this ship and doesn't see the importance of it. And other people are trying to tell him, O'Brien and Dax and Bashir to a degree, are trying to tell him that it actually is important. Partially because the computer system on the ship is technology that the Federation doesn't have, and in a lot of places they don't have. And O'Brien's saying we should, they've essentially salvaged the ship. The crew is dead, so by salvage rights they can claim it. And Cisco acts a little bit weird about this. He kind of vacillates back and forth, and then he also just kind of says, it's not really that important, let's not worry about it. It's a little bit off. I don't think Cisco in the show would act that way. He's a little dismissive in places about this, and it's a little strange. It creates a tension which is real and good as a reader and as a trick in a book, but it doesn't quite correlate to what we know of Cisco from the show. The last thing I'll say about this, it does something really fun for fans of Deep Space Nine. And it's something that I think perhaps I would have to look. I'll look right now for you because I'm bringing you the information. April 1995. So we're moving moving on through the series, perhaps this is coming out a little bit later than some of the earlier ones. And so, to be fair to some of the earlier authors, they have less to work on. I have read that some of the early novels, they really weren't given a lot to work on at all. So, in retrospect, knowing that now, I can forgive some of those authors a little bit with maybe having to do generic plot lines because they didn't have a lot to go on in terms of show notes or the actual show being out that long. It seems that at this point they had some more episodes of the show, and what this book does, which I think is great, there is an episode in Deep Space Nine where there is a computer program that runs rampant and causes some problems, but O'Brien thinks it's sentient. He calls it the pup, and he basically puts it in a little safe cage space on the computer system. Cisco allows that, and it's a nice, touching thing. It gives us an insight into O'Brien's character, kind of the gentle engineer type. But they bring that back in this book, and it's actually used skillfully as a way to solve a plot problem. And it's just really nice as a fan of the show to see the ability to bring back things from the series and use them in a new piece of work like this novel. I think that needs to be done more. It was done excellently here. It's fun for a fan. You get to say, oh, do yourself, oh, I remember that episode. It brings that back. But more importantly, what it does is it creates a realism and a unity. Every little building block you can do to create the sense that the world is real is something important to do in a science fiction novel. And when you're working within the confines of a series like this, you have so much that you can draw from if you want to. Now, it has to be done skillfully. It can't just be a kind of remember this, remember that. That's not that useful. This is remember this, and oh, there is a reason we're bringing it up, and it's going to play a part in the story, and it's going to all kind of segue together, and just really well done. I thought it was excellent. That's all I had to say about this. Again, my recommendation is if you just want to pick up a Deep Space Nine novel and you're looking for one, this so far, Valhalla by Nathan Archer, is the one to go to as far as I'm concerned. It really is quite a bit better, not just by a small margin, than most of the books that I've read so far. And it has inspired me to maybe give some more chance. We'll see. We'll see. Maybe we'll take a break. We're not sure. But anyway, join me next time for the next video. Justin A.W. Blair, writer, painter. Please like, subscribe, check out my other work and other places all around the internet. We'll see you next time.